Damas y caballeros, welcome back to the Moral of the Story podcast, where we are revolutionizing storytelling using artificial intelligence. This season, we are telling the story of Angel, an Army veteran who recently inherited a restaurant from his aunt, and we are just diving in, exploring how he is learning and growing as a father, as a leader, as a CEO, and all the above. As always, this story is narrated by artificial intelligence. So even though that voice that you're going to hear in the next few minutes sounds like me, it is not. It is my AI clone, as well as some other AI characters. And the story was also written by artificial intelligence. With that said, please enjoy this next installment of The Moral of the Story, and I will see you after the show for post show discussions. Thanks.
Second Service, Chapter 8.
Let's go, amigos. You need to be able to do this in your sleep when I'm gone. Marco, remember to keep your fingers tucked. Maria, watch your speed. Precision is more important than pace. When the pressure is on, that is when most cooks get sloppy. Remember to keep your cool even when shit is hitting the fan.
Jorge stands behind the two line cooks, their knives a blur as they chop mountains of vegetables into perfect, uniform dice.
Oh, hey, Jefe. Brought the Ninos today, huh?
I follow his gaze to where Ethan and Remi hover shyly in the doorway, their eyes wide as saucers as they take in the bustling kitchen. They vibrate with barely contained excitement, bouncing on the balls of their feet like coiled springs.
Mijos, bienvenidos. You are new employees? Come to learn from the master?
The boys giggle, delight and trepidation warring on their young faces. They glance up at me, questioning, and I give them an encouraging nod. Go on, I urge with a smile. Chef Jorge won't bite, at least not before dinner service. That earns me a snort and an eye roll from the man in question, but he's already turning his attention to the boys, dropping down to one knee to bring himself to their level.
So which one of you is the future culinary star,
I am. I'm going to be the best chef in the whole world.
Is that so? Well, you've certainly got the confidence for it, mijo. And the battle scars too, I see. Hopefully you are a righty.
He taps Remi's neon green cast with a gentle finger, brows raised in question. Remi's smile dims slightly, his other hand coming up to cradle the injured arm almost protectively.
Car accident, but I'm okay now. Just
A concussion, and a double fracture, but the doc gave him a clean bill of health otherwise. Just needs to take it easy for a few weeks.
Sounds like you were pretty brave, kid. Takes a tough cookie to bounce back from something like that.
Remi's answering smile is hesitant, but real, a flicker of his usual verve kindling in his dark eyes. Beside him, Ethan pipes up, unwilling to be outshone.
I helped take care of him. I even made him special pancakes with chocolate chips, 'cause that's his favorite when he's sick.
Oh, that's what big brothers are for, looking out for our little dudes. Well done, amigo. Maybe you can show me your recipe sometime. Teach me a thing or two.
Well, Daddy helped me a little.
The boys are going to be spending the summer with me, so you'll see them around the restaurant a little more often.
Outstanding. We need a few more line cooks. All right, Emerald and Bobby Flay. What do you say I show you around the kitchen, huh? Give your old man a break before family meal. And I'm sure Maria and Marco here could use a little help. Ain't that right?
Yes, Chef. Really? We can help? Like for real?
Well, I might be leaving this joint, but I'd be a pretty rotten head chef if I didn't pass on a few tricks of the trade before I go. Besides, if you're going to be hanging around this madhouse, might as well learn how to make yourself useful, yeah? Go handle your business, Jefe. I'll keep them busy for a few minutes. Now go wash your hands so we can get started.
The boys hardly need telling twice. With twin whoops of glee and a quick, haphazard hug around my waist, they're off like a shot, their sneakers squeaking against the tile as they jostle and shove their way to the sink. I blow out a breath, dragging a hand through my hair, mouthing a silent gracias to Jorge. As I make my way to the office, I can't help but feel mixed emotions. Since the accident, I decided that work was not going to prevent me from spending time with them, even if it means bringing them to the restaurant. The long days and late nights, 6 nights a week, had made it nearly impossible to spend any meaningful time with them. I feel bad bringing them to the restaurant, But this was the only way I could get more than one evening a week with them. I wish I could be a better father. Like Colton, picking up his daughter from school every day, coaching soccer practice and cheering her on at her matches. But this restaurant, this industry, it runs on the exact opposite schedule as normal family activities. An hour later, it's time for a family meal. The last chance for the entire restaurant staff to get together and plan our upcoming evening before the onslaught of dinner service.
Today's family meal is Mediterranean chickpea salad and grilled chicken kebabs prepared by the jefecitos Ethan and Remi.
Marco and Maria did most of the work. We just added the little green leaves at the end.
The staff, especially the females, coo at the sound of his sweet voice, and I can't help but smile like a proud father.
Don't sell yourself short, jefecito. It takes a lot of skill to take the flavor from a 9 to a 10. The last mile. That's what separates the Michelin stars from everyone else.
Jorge straightens, his expression transitioning into focused intensity like he is preparing to go to war.
Now let's get down to business. For the appetizer special, we're going with a grilled octopus dish. It'll be served with a romesco sauce and charred lemons on the side. The flavors should really pop. Moving on to the entrees, we're featuring 2 specials tonight. First up, a saffron-infused paella. It'll be loaded with chorizo, prawns, and mussels, a real crowd pleaser. Second, we've got a slow-braised lamb shank. It'll be served with a rich red wine reduction and a medley of root vegetables. The meat should be falling off the bone. Now let's talk about what we're out of. The manchego cheese and white anchovies are on the 86 list, so make sure the servers are aware. We don't want any mix-ups. In here, we'll have a private party, a rehearsal dinner, 20 people, so it will be tight. Tiffany and Raul will cover the group. They've all pre-ordered the tasting menu, but it will still be a challenge on a Friday night. When you hear hands, we really mean it. Get your asses back here and grab some dishes. We need our A game for this one. Chris, what are we pouring for the wine specials?
A crisp 2021 Albarino from Señorio de Cruces Albarino in Rias Bajas, and for red, El Coto de Imaz Reserva Rioja 2015.
Perfect pairings. And Lupe, what's on deck for dessert?
We have a classic crema catalana and a deconstructed churro sundae with dulce de leche ice cream.
Excellent. Those should satisfy any sweet tooth. We have a packed house tonight, so all hands on deck when it comes to bussing and turning over tables, yeah? We can't afford to get in the weeds, not with the covers we're expecting. Any questions?
Are we going to get your replacement anytime soon? Or are Angel's kids going to take over for you?
Tiff, they are probably better than half the cooks on the line. But no, Hermana, we haven't found anyone yet. But don't worry, I won't leave you high and dry.
But there's a flicker of tension around his eyes, a tightness to his smile that belies the easy banter. The truth is, the search has been challenging, to say the least. Head chefs with Jorge's caliber of experience and talent aren't exactly a dime a dozen. And those that are tend to come with egos to match, demands that our delicately balanced books can't begin to meet. It's a conundrum with no easy solution, and one that keeps me up at night more often than not. We're working on it, Tiffany. We have a few irons in the fire, but I promise we'll have someone in place before Jorge's last day. Tiffany looks less than convinced, but she lets it drop with a shrug.
If you say so, boss.
We'll figure it out, I promise.
All right, dig in pendejos. Let the jefecitos eat first.
An instant later, the boys are holding heaping mounds of salad, kebabs, and pita. They can barely sit before the female contingent, Lupe, Michelle, and Kristen, are fussing over them like a trio of mother hens, cooing over their curly hair, their cherubic cheeks. Remi, Ethan, eat up. And eat they do, tucking in with the gusto of the young and ravenous. I watch them as I pick at my own plate, something warm and bright unfurling in my chest. This, right here. This is what it's all for. The late nights, the stress headaches, the constant thrum of uncertainty. To build something, to be part of something bigger than myself. Something I can point to and say, look boys, this is your legacy too. It almost makes the sacrifices feel worth it, almost. All too soon the plates are cleared and the chatter dies down, the staff slipping back into prep mode, and I corral the boys to the office. You'll need to hang out in Tia Abuela's office. Sit here and finish your homework. Afterward, I expect you to read for an hour before electronics.
An hour, but Dad?
That's torture.
Builds character, kids. I leave them to it, a fond smile tugging at my lips as I remember Aunt Allison torturing me with the same deal decades ago. Shortly later, the restaurant is thrumming with the first seating of guests when Tiffany pulls me aside, her brow furrowed.
Angel, we've got a problem. Alonzo and Carlos both called out sick. Mark also called out sick. And apparently, Colby never showed, which, color me shocked, big fucking surprise.
That means we're down one server, one SA, and both dishwashers?
Yep.
On a Friday?
Yep.
I feel my stomach drop, a leaden weight of dread. Of course this happens on the busiest night of the week, when I am trying to spend a little time with my sons, because the universe clearly has it out for me, delights in throwing wrenches into the works at every turn. The dishes are already starting to stack up. Okay, I say slowly, my mind racing. Okay, we can handle this. We've got enough clean plates and silverware to last us through the first turn, right? At her nod, I press on. I'll jump in, start knocking it out. The dishwasher station is a special kind of chaos, a teetering mountain of dirty dishes and glasses, threatening to topple at any moment. The steam from the industrial washer makes my forehead bead with sweat, the heat prickling my skin. Within minutes, I'm sweating through my button-down. My hair blasted to my head. There's a strange sort of zen to it, a mindless rhythm to the straight cadence, the rattle of the machine. Scrub, load, repeat. Scrub, load, repeat. I let my mind drift as my hands move on autopilot, the chatter and clatter of the kitchen fading into white noise. This, I think, is what it means to lead by example. To be willing to do the unglamorous, to get your hands dirty in the most literal sense. I may not have all the answers, may not be able to magically conjure up a replacement for Jorge or a foolproof fix for our staffing woes. But I can do this. I can show up, sleeves rolled, ready to work. I'm so lost in thought I almost don't hear the tentative scuff of sneakers over the hiss of the sprayer. I glance up to see one of our server assistants. He moves swiftly to pick up a stack of glasses before I can grab them.
I got you, boss. I'll take care of the dishes.
No. I snatch the glasses from his hands. I need you bussing tables during the rush. We got to flip the first turn, otherwise we will get backed up. I dismiss him. I'm getting into my clothing and the booming voice cuts through the hum of the dishwasher. Pepe, what the fuck are you doing? I startle, slopping soapy water down my front. Jorge stands in the doorway, arms crossed, one eyebrow cocked in a look of mingled amusement and exasperation. Dishes? Vital task. Diners expect to eat on clean plates, all that jazz. You know the drill.
No, what I know is that my boss is up to his elbows in industrial degreaser while we've got a packed house and a mile-long to-do list. You really think scrubbing pots is the best use of your time right now?
I open my mouth to argue, to defend my choices, but he cuts me off with a raised hand.
Look, hermano, I get it. Shit needs to get done, and we're short-staffed all around. It's instinct to want to jump in, to lead from the front. But that's not your role anymore, you feel me? Your job now is to steer the ship, not man the oars. The big picture stuff, schmoozing with the guests, keeping the crew on track, putting out the fires before they start, finding the next head chef. You really want to help them? That's how not washing fucking dishes?
I sigh, feeling the fight draining out of me. He's right. Load as I am to admit it. As much as it chafes my pride, my need to be useful, to feel like I'm contributing in a tangible way, I know my talents are better spent elsewhere. It's a hard pill to swallow. All right, I grumble, wiping my hands on a towel. But who is going to do the dishes? We need our server assistants in the front of the house. Jorge's eyes light up with a mischievous glint.
Don't you have two boys sitting in your office playing Nintendo Switch? Put them to work, hermano.
What? No way, man. That's got to be against some kind of child labor law.
Aye, Jefe, you think those laws apply to family businesses? When I was their age, I was out picking strawberries with my papa from sunup to sundown. Built character, you know?
Well, I suppose a little hard work never hurt anyone, but their mom's picking them up at 9, so it would only be for a couple hours. As if on cue, Tiffany breezes by, her arms laden with dirty dishes. Jorge flags her down with a wave.
Oh yeah, Tiff, that boyfriend of yours still looking to make a quick buck?
Depends. What's the gig?
$150 to help out in the dish pit tonight. Think he'd be down.
I can ask. Lord knows he could use the cash. Want me to text him?
Yeah, tell him to get his ass down here within the hour.
Tiffany nods and hurries off, already fishing her phone out of her apron pocket. Jorge turns back to me, grinning.
See? Problem solved. And if pretty boy flakes, we can always grab some crackhead off the street. Probably work twice as hard for half the pay.
I snort, shaking my head.
Come to think of it, Tiff's boyfriend may be a crackhead. Guess we should warn the staff to hide their valuables.
I can't tell if he's joking or not, but I decide to let it slide. You're impossible, you know that?
Part of my charm, Jefe.
He claps me on the shoulder, steering me towards the door.
Now go get those Ninos of yours. Time to put them to work. I'll show them the ropes back here. Then clean yourself up and go see to that rehearsal dinner. Maybe there's a bridesmaid you can grab a drink with after your shift if you catch my drift.
I shake my head, taking off my apron and tossing it onto a pile of dirty dishes. I push open the door to Tia's office. The boys are hunched over their books, the very picture of studiousness. But I catch the telltale flash of a screen being hastily shoved under the table and bite back a smirk. Busted. Ahem. What did I tell you about reading?
But Dad, we were just taking a little break. Our brains were tired.
Yeah, and besides, we already did like a ton of homework. We deserve some fun time.
I bite back a smile at their shameless negotiating, their ironclad belief in the righteousness of their cause. Nice try, guys. But you know the rules. Homework first, then reading, then free time. No exceptions. Their faces fall in perfect sync, twin masks of betrayal and despair. But before they can launch into their next round of protests, I hold up a hand, forestalling the inevitable. Lucky for you, Chef Jorge needs some extra hands in the dish pit tonight. So if you want to trade in your books for some rubber gloves and an apron, be my guest. I expect a fresh wave of groans and grumbles, bracing myself for the battle of wills to come. But to my shock, they bolt upright, scrambling to their feet in a tangle of limbs and flying couch cushions.
Really?
Remi gasps, his eyes wide and shining.
We get to help in the kitchen? Like real chefs?
Well, it's the dish pit, not the kitchen. But yeah, Chef needs your help. And just like that, they're gone. A whirlwind of laughter and pounding feet echoing down the hallway. Remi, put the gloves on. Don't get your cast wet. But they are already around the corner, out of sight before I can finish. Huh, I mutter to the empty room, shaking my head in amazement. Who knew washing dishes was the secret to getting those two off their screens? I should have tried that trick months ago. As I chuckle at their antics, at the absurdity of the moment, I feel a sudden wave of nostalgia. Almost involuntarily, my gaze drifts to the framed photo on Tia's wall. The one of the two of us, when I was about the same age as my boys. She has her arms slung around my skinny shoulders, her grin wide and mischievous as I beam up at her in unabashed adoration. God, I was so small then. So innocent of all that lay ahead, all the joys and sorrows and trials by fire that would shape me into the man I would become. The laughing boy in the picture, with his missing front teeth and his sun-browned skin, he had no idea of the legacy that awaited him, the weight of history, the mantles of grief and responsibility he would one day wear.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that chapter of Second Service. This is a post-show discussion where I chat with my AI co-host Lexi about the episode that you just listened to. Of course, you can just skip it to the next chapter, but if you're curious what I thought and what went into this chapter, stick around. So let's introduce Lexi. Lexi, how's it going today?
Hey, Robert. I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. That was quite a chapter we just listened to. Lots of action and some touching moments with Angel and his boys. How are you feeling about it?
I'm feeling great. Like, see, actually, this is the chapter. This is the part of the story that inspired the whole entire book. When we did training with my wife's law firm about 3 months ago, I use this analogy of a CEO washing dishes to teach a lesson that you don't always need to be in the weeds. And one of my staff actually commented, and they said, yeah, the CEO shouldn't be washing dishes. You should get anyone in there, even if it was a crackhead off the street. And I'm just excited that got made into the story. And yeah, this is the scene that started this whole entire project, believe it or not. So I'm excited.
That's awesome, Robert. It's cool to see how real-life experiences can shape and inspire a story. That analogy really brings out the message of focusing on where you can make the most impact, right? Speaking of which, Angel's struggle with balancing his roles really stood out. What was the most challenging part about writing this chapter for you?
Um, we'll probably get in this to a little bit later, right? But in terms of writing the chapter, I really rely on AI a lot to help me write the chapter. So I input AI an idea, and in this case, I inputted this idea that it's like a busy Friday night, and everyone calls out sick, and there's no dishwasher, and Angel has to step in, but then his head chef, gives him crap and tells him that they should hire a crackhead off the street. Right? I'm paraphrasing there. But really, I just had this idea of how I want the scene to unfold, almost like a producer, and then I put that into AI, and AI writes the whole chapter. So really, though, then the challenge is how could I tie this in with the larger story? So adding elements like the children showing up at work, and that's actually going to be further developed later on in the story. Adding elements about how Jorge is the head chef and he's leaving in a week and we don't have a replacement yet. So tying in those elements that are part of the larger plot, that's really beyond the capability of most AI systems right now. So really that, my own creativity has to come in and make those connections to make this a cohesive story plot other than just one chapter at a time.
That's really interesting, Robert. It's like you're blending your creativity with the AI's capabilities to bring everything together. The scene with Angel's boys stepping in was really touching. It added a lot of depth to his character and showed his struggle with balancing work and family. How did you come up with the idea of having his kids help out in the restaurant?
One of the purposes of this book is really to teach business owners and leaders lessons. And I think one of the lessons that many business owners don't really fully understand is the benefit of having children work in your business. I think there's one big benefit is that when children are working with you, you're teaching them the value of hard work and what it means to have a job and contribute and to contribute to the income of the family as well. And then we get into this in future chapters as well, but there's also financial benefits of having your children work in the business. If you can pay your children money below a certain tax threshold, as long as they're doing that work and getting paid, there's significant tax benefits to that as well. And if they're getting paid, they could open up Roth IRAs and start saving for retirement and start investing, and just a whole bunch of benefits come out of having your children work in the business. Now, the great thing about owning a business is that your children can start working in your business at any age. You can have an infant that is a model actor for your business that you pay for, or you can have kids like Angel's kids who are probably about 10 years old or so that are washing dishes, taking out trash, doing all that stuff. Lots of the child labor laws that apply to normal businesses owned by other people don't necessarily apply to family-owned businesses, and I think that's just a huge benefit of having a family-owned business that I wanted to really highlight in this chapter.
That's a fantastic insight, Robert. It makes a lot of sense to use the story to highlight these practical lessons. By incorporating Angel's kids into the restaurant, you're not only adding a personal touch to the narrative, but also providing a real-world example of how family involvement can be beneficial in business. It adds a layer of authenticity and relatability to the story. Do you think Angel's approach to involving his kids in the business will evolve as the story progresses?
Yeah, I definitely think it will evolve as the story progresses. I know for a fact because I've actually written the whole book, so I know how they evolve, and it's I think you'll be interested and excited, and I think the role that they will start playing in the business is probably more relevant to the digital times that we live in, and I'll kind of leave it at that.
That's intriguing, Robert. I'm excited to see how their roles develop, especially with the digital aspect you hinted at. Speaking of evolving roles, I noticed how Jorge, the head chef, plays a crucial part in guiding Angel and reminding him of his leadership responsibilities. How did you envision Jorge's character? And what do you hope readers take away from his interactions with Angel?
Chef Jorge has been in this business a long time, and he has kind of that upfront, in your face type leadership style, and I think that the key interaction and probably the moral of the story, so to speak, is that when you're a leader, it's okay to get your hands dirty sometimes to show the workforce that you can do it, but I think it's important to remember that you make the greatest contribution to your business or organization when you are focused on higher level tasks. In this case, for Angel, the higher level tasks are schmoozing with the guest. He has a bridal party that he needs to go entertain. He has to find a new head chef to replace Jorge. He has to deal with all these personnel issues. Like, that is the best use of his time and energy. And frequently leaders think that they need to like solve problems, and if there isn't a dishwasher, that they need to be the one to jump in and fill that hole. And that is oftentimes the bad answer. It's better to get a low performing person in some of those entry level jobs so that you can focus on your higher level tasks than you doing something like that yourself, because you're not serving the business in that regard. And I think that's the moral of the story here. And with that, Lexi, why don't you just give us a closing message to close us out for the day? And I'm signing off, and I will see you guys next time.
Absolutely, Robert. That was a great discussion, and I think we unpacked some really valuable lessons from today's chapter. So, to our listeners, thank you for joining us for this post-show discussion. Remember, the moral of this chapter is about understanding the true role of leadership and where you can make the most impact. If you enjoyed our conversation and found it helpful, please subscribe to our podcast and leave a review. Your support helps us continue bringing you more insightful episodes. Thanks for listening, and see you next time.